Hi! Let's begin with a hypothetical. Let's say that you are a conservative online political commentator, okay? And let's say that you're going about in the course of your day-to-day work as you do, going online, doing that political commentary. And let's say that eventually you find out that you are genuinely convinced that something which you had previously believed to be true is actually wrong. Why don't we take, for example, because unfortunately a lot of conservatives tend to talk about this nowadays, the idea of whether or not trans people are genuinely the gender with which they identify with, and whether or not they deserve rights and recognition in order to be able to account for the fact that they experience disproportionate discrimination compared to other people in society based on that classification. All right, let's say that one day you're a conservative commentator, and whether or not you're exposed to the data or you read the academic consensus on the matter, you're suddenly like, oh shit, I'm wrong. Or at least the things I've said publicly in the past are wrong. Now, I want to ask you all a question. Is there any, and I mean any circumstance where that person can go on from there and continue to, at this point, state their previous position, which they don't believe anymore, about trans people? Well, hi everyone, we're back, baby! I'm actually curious, like, who you all thought I was referencing, like, as far as the political conservative commentator who has negative views about trans people, because unfortunately, that is a lot of people. Unfortunate. But here, I think that there's actually a really cool example of someone who will not normally say that they are a conservative per se. A lot of you, if you are even remotely present on Twitter, have probably heard about some of the drama being stirred up by one of our favorite heavy quotations liberals, Timpool. Hi Tim, how are you? How are you doing? How are you? Also, I see a lot of you talking about Hunter Avallone. Let's be clear, Hunter Avallone is explicitly someone who does not fit this mold. We'll use him as like the contrapositive later on because he is explicitly not this. Hunter is the exact opposite of this. All right, but we'll get to that more later. So for people who have been following, Timpool, historically, he will market himself generally as a liberal, and yet somehow, and if you've watched his conversations with Destiny, or especially Vosh brought it up a lot in Vosh's conversation with him, that it seems like Timpool, despite claiming that he is more liberal, tends to always criticize people on the left and never turn any critical eye meaningfully against people on the right. And for a lot of people who have followed similar figures, right, like this tends to be incredibly problematic because then people don't really know if you actually meaningfully would advocate for or hold any actually left-leaning positions. All we know is that you hate liberals. It's kind of like the meme that everyone uses for Angie Speaks, the one from like 4chan or Reddit, or the people also use this for Peter Coffin, right? It's like, I don't have any politics. I just hate liberals, right? Like that's Timpool, or at least effectively how he operates, which is why it was really, really weird that a lot of people earlier the same week, he tweeted out a lot of really interesting things. Trans rights are human rights, which, hey, awesome. Based. I remember when I saw this, I was like, wait, is this real? In fact, hold on. Let me find my original tweet on the matter. So I remember he tweeted out, this was my immediate response, right? Trans rights are human rights. And I'm just like, Tim, that's great. But it seems very out of character for you to say something like that. So I'm not sure if I trust it. And that tends to be a problem. And obviously now we know a little bit after the fact about why that is, but more on that in just a second. So he tweeted that out in addition to impeach Brett Kavanaugh. He tweeted out Bernie is correct. Tax the rich. Taxation is theft. Actually, not paying taxes is theft, which is all... Big brain Timpool discovered the concept of lying. More on that in a second. We're gonna get to the clip. We're 100% gonna get to the clip on this one. Are you kidding me? But yeah, so he tweeted out a lot of really cool things, right? At least that's what they would look like. And a lot of people were responding like, oh yeah, based timpool, super fucking based timpool, super fucking based timpool. And it's like, I kind of held my nose on it, and I'm kind of glad I did, because here, actually, so Know Nothing has been following this. Turns out that this is just part of Timpool's genius strategy to check notes, constantly lie about his beliefs to own the libs. Oh yeah, fam, this was intentional. And if you don't believe that, here, let's just watch
if
this
any,
clip, and you can make of it what you want to.
I think I've crafted a strategy that creates a paradox that cannot be countered in any reasonable capacity. I'm sure there will be attempts, but the ultimate issue is this. I tweeted abolish the ATF. I tweeted abolish the IRS. Which one of those, if any, are my actual opinions? I also tweeted, there was a study saying that, Fauci said something like COVID lockdowns. Or they said something like, we don't know if there's ever going to be an end to the pandemic. And so then I said, okay, then release all the restrictions. There's actual opinions in there. Which one's the real one? Maybe you can come to one of my, podcasts and try and figure out how I really feel about things. Do I really want to abolish the ATF? I said abolishing the police is wrong. What's my real opinion? Go ahead and figure it out, journalists. You won't be able to, which means any tweet ever used by any publication from me will be them publishing complete bunk BS, because you will not be able to determine which one of my tweets is real.
So, you heard it here, folks. Timpool's ultimate strategy is to lie, so no one can ever know what he actually believes. So, this was about, if I lie about what I believe enough, nobody will be able to take what I say seriously. This is how Timpool sees himself. This is unironically how Timpool sees himself. I know. No, he does think, that's the thing that's irritating about it, right? Is that he has no self-awareness. He actually thinks that he's so smart for doing this. So actually, all right. So putting aside the fact that this is fucking hilarious, I do want to actually talk about this, all right? Because a lot of people, I think, can probably look at this and realize intuitively, all right, that's fucking ridiculous, right? Like, I think that most people can reasonably recognize that that is a terrible idea. But I do want to be specific about why. Like, I do want to be very atomistic about being able to identify, why is it bad? Why is it bad to lie on the internet? Why is it bad, especially as a political commentator, to lie to other people and especially to your audience, right? What does your audience expect from you? What are the things that audiences want of political commentators? And this goes back to the hypothetical at the beginning. Is there any time, and I'm going to ask this of you, chat, I want you to answer with a yes or a no, because I'm actually curious. I'm testing you on this. Is there any time when it's good or fine for a political commentator to lie to their audience on a public position? Maybe they can lie about, like, oh, something super personal in their life, but to lie about a public position that they hold and prescribe to other people. Yes or no? No, unless it's veganism. No, you need to be truthful and honest. If you get it wrong, admit your fault. Question too hard to answer. Apparently for some people it is. And I don't want, I'm not trying to give you this a trick question. I would say that the answer in that instance is no. I would agree that the answer is no. And here's the reason why. I've brought up these ideas before, but I feel pretty sound in saying this, right? Especially in regards to this instance, in light of this, and after reflecting on it some more. And I think, and this is just my theory, I don't know, you could call this the RGR theory of succeeding in online politics, all right? I think that essentially there are 2 or maybe 3 major qualities that makes for a truly successful, and when I say truly successful, I mean someone who's going to probably have a long and successful career in online politics. I think that there are either 2 or 3 qualities, depending on how you slice them up. Authenticity, credibility, and also entertainment. I think that those are the 3 main ones, and I would say personally that the first 2 are much higher weighted than the third, though obviously the third is important in terms of being able to perform online. Unfortunately, the nature of doing this kind of content means that you have to be able to be entertaining. It's an unfortunate consequence. Welcome to the internet. But the first 2, I think, are the most important in terms of doing political content, and not necessarily other types of content, right? But let's say that you're a video game streamer, all right? Your authenticity and credibility aren't necessarily as important, at least insofar as your personal character, because all that people care about is your ability to play the game well or entertain them. With comedy, people don't really care as much about authenticity or credibility because they just mainly care about whether or not you can make them laugh, depending on certain things. I don't know. There's a whole discussion on comedy, but that's just like my lay impression of it, right? But when we get into politics, politics seems to be relatively unique in terms of online discussion because most people consume online political content specifically looking for people to help them navigate and even prescribe them ways to think about certain political issues, right? I would imagine that most people who watch me or other political YouTubers don't just listen to them just for the entertainment of it, right? You probably go and try to listen and learn and maybe base your opinions off of what they say if they're able to reasonably convince you. I would say that's the mark of a successful political commentator. But in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to be credible and authentic. You have to be able to be someone that the person can trust to be able to base their opinions off of. And you also, and this is my big sticking point, you have to be able to be authentic. I have to know personally in order for me to trust you. And I think that this is true for a lot of people. Maybe this is a personal prescription, but this is my observation, is that a lot of people tend to care a lot about whether or not someone is being authentic, whether or not I am the person that you make me out to be. I'll use an example right now. I think that this is a big reason why a lot of people, especially nowadays, are very turned off by Blair White, because I feel like it's a pretty wide consensus, especially after the whole Janae Kroc incident. I think it's pretty clear to a lot of people that not only is she not credible, not only does she not do any research into the stuff that she actually talks about, but I think that a lot of people are beginning to get the impression that she's not authentic, that she doesn't actually care about what she believes in, that she primarily just says them because it's what pays the bills, because she's grifting. It's the same reason a lot of people probably don't like Arielle Scarelli, is because most people probably look at her and are able to pretty easily recognize that honestly, it doesn't really matter whether or not she believes what she does. It seems like what she's doing is, regardless of whether or not she believes the things that she is saying right now, she's mostly just trying to dig really hard into the conservative grift. You could also extend this to people like Carolyn Borisenko and other very grifty conservative commentators. And it's not necessarily that they're not credible, though they are not credible in a lot of things that they say, but there's another unique quality to them that makes them unlikable for a lot of people, specifically that a lot of people get the very severe impression that they are not representing what they authentically believe to be true. This can also be seen, I think, in some people on the left. When we have a lot of conversations about even streamers, right? Like there's this big question of whether or not you are developing a parasocial relationship with someone who is or is not a real person. Is the Riley that you are seeing right now, in this moment, like, is this an act? Is this a real person? Am I acting the same right now that you're seeing as I would if you met me IRL? This is usually a question that most of us have in the back of our mind. And most streamers, if they're smart, will tell you, oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah, this is absolutely who I am. And of course, I'm going to tell you that this is about as real as you can get. Is there any way for me to be able to like prove that infallibly? Probably not. But I can get close to trying to show you that I am representing what I truly believe by certain actions. For example, if I take a very controversial opinion and I don't move on it despite the fact that a large majority of my community wants me to, even though it would be in my interest to move with my community. I think that and similar things can show you, especially when you do things against your own interests so you can be consistent with what you believe. Those are things I think that can show you if you are being consistent and therefore if you are being authentic, if you're representing what you authentically believe. Because even if you don't necessarily agree with me, you know that I'm not just telling you what you want to hear, or you know I'm not just telling you something that I think you want to hear, even if it's not what I necessarily agree with, right? I think that is an important virtue. I think that's something that a lot of people look for, even if they don't necessarily say it. Because you don't want to watch someone who you think is a fake person, I would think. And I think that's true for most other content creators. And so, I want to return us with that context to the question at the very beginning. Is there any time when you can lie to your audience and still be a successful online political commentator? And I would say probably not. Destiny is a prime example of being authentic. Yeah. Destiny is a prime example of being authentic. Yeah, no, I will say that. I'll 100% own that. I will say that sometimes, because like people will clip that out of context and put that against sometimes. Like for example, when I was on the panel with him recently, he basically stimulated conversation by coming out with a super hot take that actually we should just like cancel all past literature or all past media, right? I was able to reasonably like understand that he didn't actually believe that, but was trying to stimulate conversation. I would assume that most people would understand it to be the case there as well, but I would otherwise agree agree that, yeah, I would say that Destiny is a good example of authenticity online, regardless of whether or not you agree with him. And so, and he can be bad faith, but IDK, that's the same as lying. I don't have that impression, but if you believe, like, listen, I'm not trying to get into a debate about that. If you believe that, then fine, you can take it up with him in this community. All right? But as far as authenticity, I think he's a decent example. All right? All right? Cool. So, how is this going to affect Tim Pool? I don't know. The thing is that this is a terrible thing for most political commentators to do. I would think that if anyone smaller, like if anyone my size did something like this, it would practically be the death knell for their audience. Like, I want you, like, what's a good example? Who's the Mike from PA? He might be a good example without looking more into him, just based on the context, because I saw the whole situation between him, Vosh. I saw Destiny review that. That seems like someone who that will probably, like, based on the way that the recent drama has unfolded, he's a grifter. Yeah. So that seems like someone who probably fails to be authentic. I think that the main example is that he has said priorly that he won't cover local politics because it's not beneficial enough or it's not profitable enough. And that doesn't seem to be reflective of an authentic belief to get involved and meaningfully help other people. I mean, y'all know me. I am constantly involved in local politics. I am about as involved as you can get. God damn it. Things are materially the same, whether you believe what you say or not. What Tim Pool did isn't lying, it's being transparent with his intention to lie and therefore decrease his credibility. I think that's a good way to be able to put it, because it's not only the fact that he has lied, because technically if we look at all of this, because like it's not like we're able to look at these and spot the lie. Like it's not like he said specifically which of these things are lies. The problem is the fact that we don't know what his lies are. It is the fact that he has expressed that he will lie in order to be able to muddy the waters. And so now we can't trust anything that he says. Literally, we can't trust anything that he says. We can't trust these opinions. We can't trust what he regularly says. His credibility is shot. And so I don't know what this is going to do to his career. I don't know. There's a good chance that a lot of people who follow him, just with the massive amount of the people who follow him, that a lot of his audience probably won't see this, or a lot of people who consume his content probably won't see this, because unfortunately, most people who watch YouTube videos do not go out and follow people on Twitter. I used to be guilty of this. Honestly, I advise a lot of you to do that to the extent that it is healthy. Twitter is not healthy to do a ton if you are not like doing this for work, right? But otherwise, you know, it's good to be able to just like be in the know about these kind of things, because otherwise this probably won't impact his career a massive amount. But I think it's important to be able to look at this as a case study, because let's be clear, if literally anyone else did something like this, it would probably be the end of their career. And this will probably also tarnish his credibility and his career a decent bit going forward. So I think it'll be very interesting to watch that unfold. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a really 10,000 IQ 5-head strategy to lie in order to cast doubt on what people or what credibility people assign to you.